Hey everyone, buckle up for Anonymous-Stradamus Part 2. Our man Morpheus is back. So if you missed last week, don't proceed till you go back and get caught up. Our discussion gets even a little more interesting today. Sit back and enjoy episode 16 of the Ministry of Freedom show. Welcome to episode 16 of the Ministry of Freedom show. Bruce Coddington, Jim Motes, Morpheus. Our anonymous guest is back for part 2 of our unveiling of truths. And this is going to be interesting. I'm very excited that you're back. Thank you for being here. And the anonymous part we went over last week, but due to some marketplace concerns and some things, you want to be able to speak freely. And so we agreed to, hey, let's have you come on here and kind of keep you off camera. So that's why the views are going to be a little bit different. You're going to get way too much of me for back-to-back episodes. So thank you, Bruce, for having me be on camera probably more than you.
That's why I'm trying to keep as silent as possible. That way it just stays on you.
Right, man. It just makes me anxious, man. And he loves it. He can see the anxiety welling up. So a couple quick things, and we're going to dive right back in. If you guys haven't checked out last week, which is episode 15, episode 1 with Morpheus. And by the way, I haven't unveiled this yet. You're going to like this. I'm super proud of what we're going to name these shows. Are you ready? Anonymous-Stradamus. It's good, right? If it's bad, you can tell me. I'm not changing it. See, because it's like Nostradamus.
Yeah,
You're
sure,
anonymous.
Sure.
Anonymous-Stradamus. Man, it's gold. Gold. So
Hello,
the
Jerry.
website. I asked you last week if you checked out the website. I'm going to guess you still haven't.
That would be correct.
So no judgment, all grace. I need you to do that, though.
Right.
So it's ministryoffreedom.show. It's a really freaking great website. We're excited about it. You can do a lot of cool stuff there. You can buy some neat merchandise. Please buy some neat merchandise. You can engage with the show, submit questions to go right to my email, which is kind of cool, and I'll answer those directly. You can support the growth of the show, and we're excited about it. So please check that out, ministryoffreedom.show. And since most people are consuming the content on YouTube, please subscribe. So the comments, the likes, and the shares and all that, super important. Turns out subscriptions are kind of the bread and butter in YouTube. So please, if you're digging what we're doing, subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. Socials, Instagram, we're at Ministry of Freedom Show. I am at Real Jim Motes. So if you check those out too, I've been trying to be a little more active on that kind of stuff. And I have the most amateurish reels that I'm trying to figure it all out. I'm like, why are these only 4 seconds long? How do I do this? And I don't know what I'm doing. I'm trying to wing it. I'm trying to Google how to do it better. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So a little bit of grace, but if you want a little bit of entertainment and possibly a chuckle, are you on the Instagram?
No, but I know how to get there.
And we wouldn't be able to say, hey, it's not Morpheus at Morpheus, right? You could do at Anonymous-Stradamus. I'll let you have that. Free of charge.
That was very nice of you.
Thank you. Salt of the earth. So we dove into 5 of your 10 predictions for this next 12 months last week. And today we're going to finish those off, followed with a conclusion of me throwing a few topics at you to get your opinion. So before we get back, starting in with number 6, people reject truths. This is something that I overheard you say during a break that we had when we were taping last week, and I wanted to jump back into that. So expand. People reject truth. Tell me what that means to you, and what were we talking about?
I think our initial tendency as human beings is to reject truth. I read somewhere years ago, the average person hears the gospel 6 times before they receive it. And then this morning, I felt like I was supposed to write down times when God had a significant blessing for me, and I initially opposed it. And he just had to get me out of the way. Now, fortunately, he wasn't too rough on me, and I came around to it. And I was just, I'm going to put a couple drops in your pail here, Mr. Moats. About 6 to 8 weeks ago, I was saying, gosh, that guy just won't get off the workout thing, and just, and I percolated on that for a couple weeks and started working out.
Good for you, man.
Sat out in the parking lot a little while. It's like I have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Yeah. Went in, got the membership. At the point of dabbling with a personal trainer now, I used to work out a lot, so it's coming back natural. But what I was saying over the break is it's enhanced my devotional life. It's enhanced my energy. It's another thing that we bandied about is sometimes you have to break up a routine with another routine to get breakthrough. And so getting that early morning routine in there, it's been wonderful. So I thank you for being stubborn about that. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you for that. And that's the thing about the word truth. It just stands on its own. If something's real and you're interested in real, it'll get there. So that's good. Thank you for that, man.
Yeah, because I usually, anytime somebody's trying to oversell something as being true, that's as soon as my flags go up. And I'm like, if you're trying to sell me on something that's true, and instead of just telling me it and then not caring whether or not I believe it, I will believe that's a way to sell me on something.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to know.
Testimonial sales is the most effective. Hey, I'm not telling you should go work out, right, Mr. Morpheus? I'm telling you, here's what training has done for me, and it's significantly impacted my life, and I can tell you with confidence as a friend that I believe if you would look into it and start, it would help your life. If you don't, it's not going to impact our friendship. It's not going to derail me from what I know is true, but I do have an obligation to share that with you because my testimony is that's impacted my life greatly. And that's exactly how I approach witnessing. My evangelism is that way too. You need Jesus. I don't approach things that way. I'm like, hey, I had a pretty radical life change years ago, and let me tell you what happened, and Jesus impacted my life and continues to this day. It'd be cool if you would be on board with that too, because I think that it would change your life and your family's lives, and here's what it did for me. And we're going to leave it there, and I'm here if you have any questions. But that overselling, people ain't buying into that.
Mm-mm. Nobody wants to be compelled to make a life-altering choice.
Yeah.
They want to choose freely.
And I think that that's why in order to have the biggest impact, we need to be authentic in those things. We need to walk what we talk. So that's why, man, I have a hard time with somebody that's 400 pounds starting to tell me about what I should be eating. And I have a hard time with the head of our health organizations being 400 pounds telling me about health. I mean, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I don't want a broke guy telling me about how to build wealth. I mean, what are we talking about? So if you want to impact other people's lives positively, you need to do some positive things. And then the whole watermark raises, and that's kind of the mission, right? It's good. So I appreciate the kind words. Bruce had a topic. And I love that you brought this guy up, and I would love to get Morpheus's thoughts on your guy.
Oh yeah, because we're talking about Fauci and everything. But I think why don't we go ahead and save that for number 10 as I'm pre-reading.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
But for sure, yeah, I'm definitely going to want to hear.
So we'll get back to there.
Your thoughts on RFK.
All right. So we're at number 6. Ready?
Yeah.
I love this one. Military police will begin openly arresting many powerful and well-known people for crimes against humanity, treason, conspiracy to overthrow the U.S. government, and high crimes. This will include legislators, judges, doctors, lawyers, educators, media, and many in the entertainment industry, among others. This will be the beginning exposure of publicly revealed military tribunals on a global scale that will make Nuremberg look like a cakewalk. Boom. So I'm trying to visualize that statement. So we're seeing Humvees pulling up to places, and we're seeing troops out, and they got their long guns, and they're putting people in zip ties, and they're hauling these people off for high crimes, and they're tried in a military court. That's what your prediction is for this next 12 months.
I don't think it's quite that stark. And,
Okay.
I
took some liberty there. That's just how I envision it.
Yeah.
What would it look like to you?
Because again, we get to the, if it looks like Trump is behind it, it's going to lose its authenticity. If Trump is engineering all this, it's got to happen as everything is revealed. Perhaps that's around election time, because I believe the military will supervise the election most likely.
Well, that will be interesting as well.
Yeah.
So that I don't want to interrupt you, but would the military supervising the electoral process, would that look like I go to my polling place and there's some National Guard there?
Could be. I don't know.
Would that be something? And I'd be okay with it.
If it means a fair election.
Yeah. Again, if that's what it takes.
Yeah.
If it just means that, then again, what side's the military on? So everybody's answering to somebody, and
it has to be the military. So I'm a follower of Q. People in the military, a lot of people call it QAnon. That's an improper name. It's Q. Probably not only an intelligence operative, but a group of intelligence operatives, and they've predicted many things and some authenticating things. Like, for instance, Q would. This has been years. He hasn't done anything for over a year, or the group hasn't. There were 40 times where you wouldn't say tweeted out, but it was on 4chan, I think it was initially. And then the President Trump tweeted out in response or something related 40 times within 1 minute, 0 delta. There was another time where Q was asked to tell President Trump to do something, and the phrase that was requested was tip top. Well, the next day, President Trump said the word tippy top at the Easter celebration. This has been in 2018, I believe. And so little authenticating things there. Of course, the media asks him about it. He'll deny it,
what is that? Why is that significant that happened?
Well, it needed to be authenticated. In other words, that it would go beyond mathematical possibility that this person is in the know. It had to go beyond mathematical possibility. The other thing is that Q said that the military is the only way. That's the only way. So if you got corrupt courts, I think that's been well established by what's happening now in Georgia,
Agreed,
and New York and Michigan. You got corrupt courts. Even going into the Supreme Court, there was one prophet who said 2 Supreme Court justices are going to be removed because of the corruption. You can't resolve things in a regular way. And you've got Congress, and I don't know about you, but I wouldn't leave one of them with my kid. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the corruption has made its way from top to bottom in our society. So the military is about the only way. Now you have to do that in a way that doesn't appear like an imposition and a bunch of jackboots. You have to do it that way. Otherwise, that removes the authenticity, removes the credibility, I should say.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else we need to talk about in regards to that?
No.
Worldwide tribunals is what has been prophesied by Mark Taylor, and and
you mentioned that Kat in last week.
Yes.
One of somebody that you believe is prophetic, and okay. Number 7, economy stuff. Inflation will increase greatly, and the media will lose control of their smoke and mirrors narrative regarding what is actually happening in the U.S. economy. Massive civil unrest will ensue in the USA and much of the Western world, including especially Western Europe. So inflation's going through the roof. That's the prediction. And the narratives that they're trying to spin and tell us everything's great is going to go up in smoke, so to speak. And the civil unrest is interesting. So things are going to kind of hit the fan in that way. And I've always believed that in this year, much like in 2020, there will be civil unrest. They kind of did it through race baiting and the BLM riots and all of that stuff in 2020.
Every 4 years that pops up.
It's interesting, right? So there'll be some race stuff coming in this year as well, but anything to divide us. But your contention is that perhaps it will be from economic factors that will spark the civil unrest, and not just in the United States.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's little things that tell us that things are not as peachy keen as what they're telling us. Credit card delinquencies way, way up. Auto loan delinquencies way up. People are living off their credit cards. At some point, that has to end. And little things like that. Of course, the liars at the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You go on sites like Zero Hedge. I don't know if you're either one of you.
Not no.
ZeroHedge.com. They will show some of the real figures for what's going on, and we're just being fed a line here. And our natural tendency is to just believe it. But after you've went through some trauma yourself on some of these fronts, you tend to see the lies for what they are. Yeah, let's leave it at that.
What does civil unrest look like? Does it look like what 2020 looked like, where it's, just punks that are running around in their stupid outfits and throwing bricks through windows? Is that what civil unrest looks like?
I'm sure some of them will be.
Or are we talking about the civil unrest that comes from a father going 2 days without enough food for his kids?
Yeah.
It's a different level of civil unrest. So I don't, and that's that. The first one's an annoyance, and yeah, it's dangerous, but okay, it is what it is with these Antifa freaking weirdos and the punks that are out doing that. But when you've got desperate patriots running around, that's going to look a little bit different. So I'm wondering what it's going to look like.
One person said we're only 9 meals away from a civilization-changing event.
And we talked about that. It's 72 hours.
Yeah, and exactly.
If the grid goes down, the EMP hits, in 72 hours, your life as you've known it is over and is never going to go back to being the same. It takes less than that probably because we're that soft.
And I don't think things are going to get that far, but I think people are going to it's getting to where, my family and I, we're not rich, but we're doing okay. But that's because I've refused to go into any debt for the last 15 years. 2008 changed everything for me when I could see that it's like, we're bailing out the banks and we're spending more money for the banks than you would need to bail out every single mortgage in the United States. That was a fact in 2008. I began trading Forex and it's like, oh, I get this. All I want to do is sell gold and silver short as they're about to expire, if their options expire, and I can make money. Well, I stopped doing that after a while because I didn't feel right about it. I didn't feel right at all. But where you start to see the BS.
Interesting.
So do you think that, because there's already a massive trend of people losing all respect for mainstream media or the legacy media, or however you want to term it, because now everybody's getting a significant amount of people are getting their news from podcasts.
That's it.
And from YouTube. So, I mean, civil unrest could be, even the viewership on, CNN, MSNBC, all of those could go way down even more.
Yeah.
Because, and almost to the point where they're, defunct. It's not going to happen to CNN because CNN is, it's Washington's news. So it's all the Washington players, and the news is written for all the people in Washington. But and that's why they get all the advertisements from Big Pharma and everything. But I could see that the civil unrest for this, right? Seriously, brought to you by So yeah.
Do you watch any news? Is there a network that you?
I don't watch any mainstream news.
Newsmax. Have you looked at Newsmax?
I've looked at them. They're a little bit compromised. I follow mostly alternative media. I follow
Daily Wire
individuals. I look at Citizen Free Press and places like that. But most of it I get. Even that. You ever notice you read a story and it's like the comments are the most interesting part. Well, they don't have to worry about what the consequences are of their opinions. But even little places have to worry about that to some extent. And so the people will, so I believe, General Flynn has talked about this, a patriot army of individuals who are speaking truth. And that's why, we want to enlist people in this. We're not calling for violence. We're not calling for any of that. We're calling for truth to be spoken boldly and courageously. And
well said.
Yeah.
I think the people that are clamoring for violence haven't experienced violence. You just got to go out in the street and start.
We don't want civil war. That's a no-win. That's a no-win.
I agree. I agree. You absorb any of the networks at all?
No.
Any thoughts on, like, is there anybody that's close to being on the level and telling the truth? Is Daily Wire close?
No.
I don't
Even
think so.
Breitbart's compromised. You know.
I used to think maybe the Daily, but no, they are. Yeah, everything that I watch is very fashioned towards that. Patrick Bet David is my favorite.
Yeah.
And it's just a discussion. They're just covering posts made by mainstream media.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of that. Glenn Green. I like reporters. Glenn Greenwald.
He's a bold man.
Right. There's. I can't remember anything off the top of my head right now.
It's tough though. I mean, to find, man, and it's crazy. It used to be, okay, if you're a little bit conservative, you watch this. If you're a little bit leaning this way, you watch this. And they spin it slightly differently for their audience, but they get to the same truth. And it's basically the same. Here's the information. You make your conclusion with slightly spun a little bit. And I get that for ratings. Now it's just freaking total lies.
From both.
Exactly. Yeah. This isn't a partisan. No. It's total lies.
And Saul Alinsky was who Hillary Clinton took her talking points from. So he wrote the Anarchist Handbook. I believe he wrote that, dedicated to Satan. But one of the keys that he said to bringing about a revolution was to accuse your opponent of that which you yourself are guilty. And we see that over and over and over and over again. At its root, of course, I believe this is a spiritual battle. It's the forces of wickedness trying to overthrow this country. And human beings as their willing dupes that are doing this.
Dupes.
So anyway,
willing dupes.
Yeah.
That's good, man. I like that. Okay. We're moving on. We're on number 8. Though extremely manipulated by the powers that be, gold and silver prices will nevertheless begin to rise significantly. Tangible assets will begin to be valued above electronically traded goods like stocks and derivatives because their backing allows for much less possibility of fraud and deceptive trading. So we've touched on this a little bit, but so gold and silver, we can touch them, right? You own them, you touch them. Should we have gold and silver in a safe in our home? Let's say that we're all Joe Sixpack and we make $60,000 a year and we don't have a lot of, disposable income and we're thinking about, boy, things could really fall apart. Should we be trying to gather $3,000 or $4,000 worth of gold or silver and throw it in a small safe in our closet? Opinion?
I'm not going to say where you should store it, but I will say if you don't hold it, you don't own it.
Okay.
If you don't hold it, you don't own it. Depression. They went through safe deposit boxes at the bank. If you think your money's going to be safe in a safe deposit box, you're greatly deceived. Even the gold and silver markets are a huge deception because it's electronic trading. There's no backing. They can, they're trying to convince you that they actually have all those metals. They don't. That allows them to print an unlimited supply. When I was trading on Forex, and some of the people doing these things, JP Morgan has been convicted of doing this, naked shorting. You would see someone sell millions of ounces of gold or silver in the middle of the night, 2-3 in the morning on the London Bullion Market Association. If you have that much gold or silver to sell, you're not going to do it in the middle of the night because there's not as much liquidity. You want a lot of buyers, people who can give you a good price for it. You're not going to dump it. The only reason you do that is to nail the price down, is to nail it down. And you get these huge volumes in the middle of the night with commercial traders, and
wow.
Yeah, it's been, because if you don't control gold and silver, your treasuries go to pot. It's one of those canary in the coal mine thing. Okay, when something goes wrong with the canary, you know that it's not safe. And anyway, so and I'll just say this: silver is will outperform gold in a precious metals bull market. It's also at a ratio of approximately 85-1 right now to gold. Normally that ratio gets to at least 30-1, if not 20 or 15-1, after things get sorted out. For instance, 1980, when you had the run on silver. That's happened at numerous points in our history. Silver, and also because silver is not just purely monetary, it's also a commodity, and it's used in many different products. Silver is the thing that's going to really return substantial, in my opinion, substantial returns. Physical silver. You don't hold it, you don't own it.
Taking a few notes here.
And don't buy something that just has Elvis on it. You're not buying it for how pretty it is. You're buying it for how much precious metals it has. Something that says this is how much, what the weight is. It's 999 or whatever. And this is what people have used to defend themselves from crazy governments for many years. And governments will always choose to save the economy over saving the currency. They'll always kick the currency to the curb. That's what's going to happen. That's why the Fed doesn't have the courage to raise rates right now. Eventually, they're going to maybe even lower them, and then things are going to go south fast.
So you think that, so my prediction was that they would lower it by about 0.75 in 2024, that the rates would go down maybe 3 different times by a quarter. I don't think they're going to do one dump of, a point or 0.75, but I think 3 times of 0.25. Do you see that's reasonable? Do you think that's a mistake? What would you think if you had to put your money on this is what's going to happen to interest rates this year? Because the stock market has been betting over the last couple of months that is coming down, and that's why it's been so fruitful.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be what they're talking. I think if they do that, Katie, bar the door. Our currency, and then you got the BRICS countries coming online, and their competition with the U.S. dollar. And who wants to trade with the dollar internationally if you're paying a fee? It's like you're using a credit card. Oh, Uncle Sam gets 2% of that transaction or whatever. Who wants to pay that when you got something? This gold stands for what it stands for, and Russia's in on that. China, India, 2/3 of the planet is supporting that because Uncle Sam is just getting his take. And I love my country, but
so you think if the rates go down, that doesn't bode well, big picture?
Not at all. Okay. Not at all.
But do you think it will happen?
Do I think it will happen?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a good question. Because we're on a knife's edge already. We're on a knife's edge. And they say they're going to. The market certainly thinks.
The market is certainly telling us that.
Yeah.
What's freaking me out a little bit as we sit here is pretty much all of my net worth is sitting somewhere not tangible. It's just a number on my freaking phone that goes up and down every day. I can't touch it. I don't know where it's at. I mean, I'm not trying to sound like I'm some sort of dolt, and they tell me, and I get a report, and it's in this and this and this and this. I don't really know what any of it means.
That's worked for the last 60, 70 years.
But it's spooky to me because I can't touch any of it.
It'll work until it doesn't work.
And you know what? When the day comes when they want to come after you for whatever reason, they can shut that off. And I mean, yeah,
anything electronic. That's why I don't. Now you can make money right now in Bitcoin, but does it have intrinsic value? The gold and silver represent the blood, sweat, and tears that somebody took to mine it and put it into its present form. Bitcoin, you just flip the switch.
Yeah,
cha-ching. It doesn't exist.
So I'm talking to a dude yesterday, and he says, the smartest, wealthiest guy I know is all about Bitcoin. And he says, and here's what is about to happen, because he's put all this more, millions of dollars in Bitcoin. This guy's worth over $100 million, whatever. And he says, so not the guy I'm talking to, the guy he trusts. So he says that BlackRock, the leader of BlackRock, if he tells people you should invest or divest into 1% of everything you have should go into Bitcoin, the minute he announces that statement, Bitcoin doubles. That's pretty spooky.
Yeah.
That dude has that kind of power. And then if you know that's coming,
And they own 90% of the market. BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. They own 90% of everything. So they're controlling a lot of things. And I happen to believe both the good guys and the bad guys want to take the dollar down. The bad guys want to bring it down so they can introduce digital currency, which Trump has been talking about the last few days. You could control everything if currency is digital. What kind of job you have, whatever, judge, jury, executioner, boom, we got you on this. And the good guys want to take it down because that's the root of the Babylonian money magic system that we have, where they can just create money out of thin air. And all these bubbles, they're enriching the wealthy and stripping wealth from the poor and the middle class. And when these bubbles pop, boom, the middle class, you see their income start to go up, and then the heavy gets laid on us again. So that's how the game's played.
Moving on. This one I could see happening. Trump's current criminal charges will ultimately come to nothing. So you think this year that they're thrown out? Do you think that he's going to be in court in trials, actually on criminal trials in 2024 or no?
Well, he's up against charges right now. Go ahead.
No, agreed. So is 91 indictments or whatever. Is he actually sitting in a courtroom dealing with a criminal case in 2024? Or do you think that it doesn't go that far and these things get thrown out?
I don't know, but the end of it is one thing we're doing is we're setting a precedent. Former presidents can be investigated.
Yeah.
So what happens then when we start investigating Joe Biden and investigating Bill Clinton and investigating all these, Bush Jr.? What happens?
It also makes them basically they can't do their jobs. You can't have this precedent.
Yeah.
They're going to be afraid to make any decision at all. It's like what's happened in the medical field. I mean, they're so afraid to do anything that you can't. That's not going to work. I don't think that this precedent will be allowed. So the reason you believe this is because that precedent's too dangerous, and you don't see that happening.
I think it's being that the white hats are okay with it because it is setting a judicial precedent that you can go after the former presidents. I believe all those presidents I just named, including Jimmy Carter, Bush Jr., Clinton, Obama, and Biden, they're all corrupt. They're all globalist controlled, every single one of them. I don't believe Reagan wasn't, but he was unaware and naive about a lot of stuff that happened. At the end of the day, it's who's pulling your puppet strings. And when we get to Israel, I would say Israel is controlled by a deep state too, just like the United States is. And this is going to come crashing down on a global scale, I believe. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you ready for number 10?
Sure.
I love the first three words. The COVID hoax. And the truth regarding the bioweapon known as the COVID vaccine will be fully revealed to the public. This will also eventually filter many in the medical establishment and pharmaceutical industry into the upcoming military tribunals. Go.
Maybe
This is where we jump into RFK Jr.
Right?
You want to jump in here for me?
Yeah. I just really wanted to know your thoughts because he's definitely making more of an impact than anybody predicted he would have 3 months ago. He's winning in polls against the other two. He's definitely way ahead in favorability, and has been heralded as an anti-vaxxer and all of these negative things. Like both sides are pointing out all of the negatives, and like we said, they're lying, right? They're over exaggerating. The fact that he was never recanted on anything that he said about Fauci when he did that entire book, and is being proven right in court even this week. So it's pretty obvious where I stand on this. What are your thoughts on
I agree
RFK?
with what you're saying there. I mean, the real Anthony Fauci, if you're Anthony Fauci and that book's filled with lies, let's set up the defamation charges and take you for millions here.
Right.
RFK, this is a man who His father was killed by the deep state. His uncle, JFK, was killed by the deep state. He's been saying for 20 years, autism, these vaccines are a soft kill, a bioweapon. We're seeing massive increases among children in neurological problems of autism, of ADHD, of all this kind of thing. And yet we have a vaccine court that won't allow the pharmaceutical industry to be sued. Reagan set that up, 87, 88, or 89. So you can't sue him. I don't agree with RFK's politics as far as gun control and that kind of stuff, but he's got it going on as far as he knows where the bodies are buried. Mm-hmm. And I think there are certain individuals that are being used by Trump right now to show the truth. I would say RFK Jr. is one. I would say Tucker Carlson is another. I would say the Twitter gentleman.
Musk.
Thank you. Musk. I think Joe Rogan is another. These are people that are being used to share the truth at a level Trump couldn't reveal it, but has to be revealed by these people for the general public to accept it. These are people that are influential in decisions. But yeah, RFK's, and you have to listen closely, to him, but he's nailing a lot of stuff. And he was going to do an interview with ABC. What was that, 15 years ago, 10, 15 years ago? Had it all worked out, and it was going to take down the vaccine industry, and then they shut it down at the last minute. They shut it down. So he's a true speaker. Come on.
Did his hand get in shot? Well, there's the 10 predictions, man. That's a lot to think about. I love how your mind works. There's a lot that we've discussed, and I'm like, that kind of makes some sense. I hadn't thought about it that way, and I think it certainly should spark some discussion, and it certainly is thought provoking. I got a few points that I wanted to share and just get your opinion on, and Bruce's as well. And I've said this. I'm not the only person that said this, so I'll give full credit. And I've heard Andy Frisella talk about this too, but I said this maybe even on one of the first shows that we did. I'm pretty freaking sure Michelle Obama is going to be the Democrat nominee for president. And I've said that. I shared that with you like last summer. And it just seems like now, doesn't it seem likely? I mean, she's out there doing all of her appearances, and I think this is 100% going to happen. Thoughts?
Well, I don't know. So when she was in the White House, she had 14 people to look after her and to help her with her dresses and her whole entourage, her personal beauty entourage, because it takes a lot of people to hide a what.
Oh no!
Right. So okay,
and that's going to come eventually. That's okay. And most. Yeah.
So you're of the belief that possibly she's trans. She's what?
She's a man, and the elite are into hermaphroditism, which is just the idea of a man looking like a woman and a woman looking like a man. Baphomet, a satanic entity, embodies hermaphroditism. Baphomet, you look at Baphomet statues, the Baphomet has breasts. It also has a tallywhacker, if we're just going to use that term.
We haven't. I mean, there were a few words I thought we'd never use and cross that one off. So I don't believe that.
Yeah. Joan Rivers gave her life because she shared that.
It's crazy. I just listened to that this morning. I was listening to another podcast that talked about this exact thing, and that Joan Rivers came out and said that, and in a week she was dead. Now, she was also 100 and might not have lived so healthy. And so, but it is weird. And I will say it's weird that you can't find any pictures of Michelle Obama ever being pregnant.
What's even weirder is when she was asked, she was at a school, and a little girl said, what was the date that you and Barack were married? And Michelle Obama could not think of the date. She's very. Now, if you know a woman is going to know the day she was married, and Michelle Obama had no clue. There's also various tapes of Barack mistakenly calling her by the term Michael. There's like 5 or 6 of those out there. You've got her appearance on the Ellen DeGeneres show from years ago, where you can see she was dancing and you can see some movement inside of her pants that suspiciously looks like that.
Unbelievable. I mean,
Yeah.
Out of all the conspiracy theories,
Thus the moniker Big Mike.
so I'm just going to come out with this since we're sharing stuff. I think she's kind of hot. Always have. Don't care. And I also think she's going to be running against President Trump in the election.
Wow.
In the general. So let's see if
I
that
would
ages.
look forward to that.
Let's
for
see
sure.
how that ages.
Yeah.
Put it down. That's the second time I've said it on the show.
The more time that goes by in this year, the less likely it will happen.
Okay.
Because that's just not enough time to build.
Okay.
Hard to attend if you're at a tribunal.
Well, the Democrat convention happens to be in Chicago this year.
Yep.
Their town. There's just some things falling in line here. And if you listen to the stuff that's being said, Barack Obama says, no, I would have no desire to ever be president again. I'm glad there's a 2-term limit, but I would love to be the person helping make the decisions behind the scenes. Okay. Why is she going on all these shows and she's on The View and she's wherever? I don't know. She's not plugging a book. What are we doing? Let's see how well that ages.
Do you think Barack is making the decisions for the Biden administration right now?
Absolutely. He's the leader of the entire movement. Now, I also think there's some progressive weirdos that are way left to him that he's kind of like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I'm signing up for all this. But if that's what power it takes to be in power, I think that's a pretty powerful drug. So that's my prediction. All right. So that was an interesting tangent. Hashtag
Literally.
Tallywhacker. So, will another pandemic be in their playbook? Do you see that coming? And the reason I ask is because the World Economic Forum, the meeting that's going on over in Switzerland, they ran their hypothetical playbook about disease X.
Yep.
And they talked about what if this happens and what if this happens. And it seems to me, and my prediction has been for the last couple of years, that the next one will be more deadly and more targeted towards children. Because now if you speak out against what they're trying to do through a vaccine and control propaganda, you're now a baby killer. Grandma killer didn't quite work. But if it's something that's really hurting children and they're trying to advance that lie, it's going to probably in their minds get more people on board for what they're trying to do. Do you think that there is another pandemic in the playbook?
They're certainly going to try. I don't think they'll be successful. I think people are wise now. Just the whole. What I've heard is only 5% of the current population would agree to boosters right now.
So, and I agree
Yeah.
with COVID, but all of a sudden, if disease X is going to kill your kid, I think in their minds, that's what changes the narrative and pushes the ball back in their court.
Maybe.
I'm thinking that it might even be the opposite because I'm kind of on your side on this. I think that it would be scarier if there's a disease X that was real, that really did kill children.
Yes.
Because only 5% of the country would be willing to get the vaccine. And if they had a real vaccine, like if any of it was true, like all along the lines, instead of it could have massive implications because of all of the trust that they lost by remaining in power. I mean, it was just propaganda for, and that's been, according to the book, that's been Fauci's MO is the NIH creates drugs for big pharma and gives it. So the whole lie about drugs cost so much because there's so much R&D, they've been getting those drugs for free for the past 20 years under Fauci.
Wow.
And just profiting off of that. So as people start to learn, there's no way you're going to trust. There's no way that I would trust another pandemic or anything. And it could end up being to our detriment because it could actually be real.
Yep. Boy, that's a really good point and a great word. And I think, I don't see me standing in line and getting the shot. Sorry. And that could kill me.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to. The track record of trusting the government with your own health decisions isn't a good one, and
Say the least.
you know, I think, you know, as we discussed on our break, you know, they're lying about everything, and you know, we have an allopathic medical system. Meaning it treats symptoms, it doesn't treat the disease because it's so lucrative to have it. You make way more money with someone who's sick than someone who's dead or healthy. And so you've got all these people, and as years go past, they start piling up the prescriptions, and then you got all this interaction and side effects. And anyway, you'd really have to convince me to follow that something like that. It's not a good record.
Agreed. Next one I have, and we touched on this in our Q&A show pretty exhaustively, but just quickly your thoughts, Israel-Palestine conflict. Any thoughts on that you'd like to share? If not, be like, that's okay too. We can move on.
Such a tricky topic. Here's what we know. Okay, I'm just going to. So we know that Egypt said that Israel received intelligence saying that Hamas was going to be invading. We know that the border was completely unguarded for 7 hours between Israel's border. We know that that's the most closely guarded border in the world. People who've served as border guards said, we got woke up in the middle of the night because of a bird, or something that was moving. So it's very closely guarded. A couple other stats. And so Ukraine is going south for the deep state. It's going south. Russia's already won, basically. Only they're milking it because Ukraine is a place to launder money for the politicians. And also we have biolabs there where we have that whole thing has gone crazy, including diseases that are designed to hit, engineered to affect certain populations, certain ethnicities, targeted towards ethnicities.
Yeah, I've heard about that, and that's freaking alarming.
Yeah,
so
it is. And but getting back to Israel here, Mossad is exceptionally clever. Intelligence agencies have a big hand in running the United States. Israel Mossad is a big thing over there. Here's some facts, and just so we can rattle some of the Christians that are listening to this. 91% of the people in Israel do not have Semitic DNA. Do not. Now, Christ in two places in the book of Revelation talked about those who claim to be Jews but are not. So what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a large population. I would say Khazarians, people who claim to be Jews but are not. And then war is a proven moneymaker for the elite. You loan to both sides. And so they're going to try and gin up that scenario by some kind of a false flag. And I'll just explain for the listeners here, a false flag is where something happens, but you say that someone else did it. One of the most common false flags to list would be the Reichstag in Nazi Germany. The Reichstag was burned to the ground, and the Nazis blamed it on the communists, but the Nazis set the fire. And so that enabled them to overcome the communists and to basically take control of all Germany. Well, false flags happen all the time.
That's how the Vietnam War started. It really was.
Yes,
yeah, the
ship. Yes,
right?
The Magayas, or
I don't even remember the name.
Yes.
Yeah, they found out that it actually wasn't being attacked.
It's weapons of mass destruction. I don't think we found any in Iraq, did we?
Right.
No. So you have to gin up. The infants in incubators that were being euthanized supposedly in Iraq. Well, there was nothing to that. That's false flags are how the deep state operates. And they cause the crisis, and then people rise up in uproar, and the deep state's like, well, we've got a solution to that. And it usually allows them to grab more control. The name of the game is control. They're about controlling people, okay? They're about wealth, but much more about control, okay? So Israel, and I don't know is the answer to this, but I think the safe approach is I'm not going to side with the Jewish government, the Israeli government, and I'm not going to side with the Palestinian government. I'm going to side with the people. I'm going to side the innocent people that are getting killed. Jews are getting killed, Palestinians that are getting killed, because they are pawns in the middle of this power struggle. And I guess that's how I feel about it. I can take that to the bank.
Yeah, I would agree that there's a lot of layers to this deal. I don't profess to have the answers to this, and I know that innocent people are getting killed every day.
Yeah,
and
thousands.
Yeah, it's no good. Thank you for your thoughts on that. The next one I have is, I know the answer to this already. We can touch on it if you want, or we can move on. Thoughts on the indoctrination that you might be seeing of children in the school system from basically kindergarten through college.
So we have to destroy the family if you're going to take down society. The family is the elemental unit in any society. And as the family goes, so goes the rest of the country. And so that's part of why we're under such heavy indoctrination, such heavy propaganda, is we have to destroy the definition of a man, the definition of a woman, the definition of what God has instituted. He talks, in his word about this is, what God has joined together, let no man put asunder. And I will say this, you want to control somebody, you dangle money in front of them. Just like the hospitals and the doctors were controlled by large infusions of cash during COVID, the schools have been controlled by large infusions of cash along these lines. And the minute somebody else is paying the bills, well, guess who's calling the shots? It in the schools.
Yeah, it's a golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rule.
Bingo.
Yeah. So follow the money on that then, yes?
Yeah.
Thoughts on Klaus Schwab and the World Economic Forum? What are their motives and why is what my question is. So I'm going to guess you're going to say he's bad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's all about control. And I mean, you have to bring down America to make the New World Order work. You have to bring down America. That's what they're trying to deindustrialize us. They're trying to flood us with immigrants. They're doing this in Europe too, flooding it with, that to balkanize us, to divide us into different groups. Klaus Schwab, I mean, what's this guy all about? We're going to eat bugs and all this stuff. This is like Hunger Games, right? The elite are telling us what to do, and I think the people are going to rise up. I mean, are you tired of getting pushed around? I'm
not great with
it. So this guy's evil. There's pictures of him on the internet in negligee walking around on the beach.
Yeah.
So sexually confused, the whole Nazi demeanor. Yeah.
His name's Klaus. There is some pushback at this particular meeting of the forum that's going on. That is, was at the time of taping is still going on over in Switzerland, and people have, they've shouted him down and told him, shut the F up. And so you're seeing some pushback.
Awesome.
And it feels like people are sick of it. And when you just watch these people and who they are and listen to them speak. So Soros's kid was talking the other day.
Alex.
And I mean, this dude can't put a sentence together. You can go.
How do you get a PhD?
It's just crazy. Wow. You can't. It's just what are we doing? We're listening to this guy, and he's over there trying to. He's dumbing the electoral process down for the forum. He says, "So you're not." And I'll get past it. I'll actually say it like he should have said it. He says, "So in America, there's 50 states, and we have what's called an electoral college." And shouldn't they know this?
Right.
But these are the elite. They call themselves the elite. They don't even hide their playbook anymore, though. So that makes it pretty easy. You know, I mean, if someone's going to open the playbook, you can defend it pretty easily. Hey, here's the play we're going to run. Now set up your defense. If we're sharp enough and can think strategically, I think the good guys, so to speak, can set up a defense against these clowns. And I think the reckoning's coming. Yeah. And I think 2024 is going to be part of that reckoning. It's going to be an interesting year, if nothing else.
The prophecies that I pay attention to say that the UN's going down. Yeah. I don't know what year. Yeah, and that's kind of the key question, isn't it? Timing is.
What about NATO?
Yeah, they're going down.
Yeah, that'll be
NATO
over
is
too.
effectively the military force behind the New World Order, Western Europe and the United States.
Yeah. They're even throwing out the term New World Order now. When you listen to some of the stuff, they're not even hiding that term anymore. It's just like the evil villain's taking off the mask and it's like, hey, this is who I am.
There's a lot being revealed. We now know Twitter was controlled by the government.
They don't even care anymore.
We know that.
So then, speaking of things that are being revealed, we don't have this in here, but so what do you think about all of the revelations that have been within the past couple of years of the UFOs, or whatever they're calling them, and the aliens? The fact that there's people saying that we have 12 crafts from other planets. The United States is in possession of 12 crafts from other planets.
Great question. I got to hear this.
It is. So, do I believe we have UFOs? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I'm going to give you kind of a Christian response. So these beings, we know that 200 years, they tend to appear in forms that the culture can relate to. 200 years ago, they came as dirigibles. You would see dirigibles, and then they vanish and disappear. Another thing is, so these interdimensional beings can take a 90-degree turn at 6,000 miles an hour in their craft when they're followed. So the G-forces alone would break up that craft in our universe. These are they're demons. They're demons masked because... and I can remember thinking about this as an unbeliever. It's like, what about these creatures? You could tell because their doctrines. When you have interviews with, I don't know if you've seen any of those where the doctrines are always like, well, all roads lead to the truth. Well, unfortunately, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, and no man comes to the Father but by me. So, that's not the doctrine at all that these demons will give when people will, psychics will say, I'm channeling, some ancient alien or something like that. It's always this, all roads lead to heaven. They don't for the, and so I think the aliens are demons.
Okay.
A hard swallow on that one, maybe, I don't know, but that's
you've obviously thought about it.
Yeah.
It's it just doesn't fit with the physics of our universe.
Tangibly, somewhere right now today in our nation, are there craft or corpses or whatever of extraterrestrial beings or crafts?
I think maybe because I've read accounts of people who go to Area 51 and they've seen all this. Yeah. But and here's the other thing. If you look at Operation Paperclip, Paperclip, where Nazis came to this country, I think we took a lot of the Nazi technology at the end of World War II. And I think that part of that, Nazis were heavily involved in the occult. Heavily. And I think our government has went down that road to where we're involved with these beings and we think we're getting this super intelligence, and what we're really getting is demonic indoctrination.
Dang. All right. Anything else on that?
No.
I like it. I jotted this down a few minutes ago because I wanted to get your thoughts on it. George Bush Sr. was part of the plot to kill JFK.
Absolutely. And that video that I sent you has a picture of George Bush Sr., H.W. Bush, outside the Texas book depository, forgive me, the Texas book.
It'd be funnier if they called it that.
Depository on November 22nd, 1963. When asked where he was on the day that JFK was killed, a response which everybody could tell you, oh, I was in 8th grade. And
Yeah.
he said he couldn't remember. Said he couldn't. That was a very suspicious answer. He became the leader of the CIA. He was behind a lot of this stuff. I would say using drugs as a way to fund black ops, importing drugs in the United States. A lot of wild shenanigans. And his funeral, if you ever get a chance to research his funeral and all the notes that were passed out to the people that came to that funeral, very interesting stuff.
So the CIA killed JFK.
Yep.
That's your contention.
Yep.
Yeah. For a number of reasons.
He said he would shatter the CIA into 1,000 pieces.
Didn't he also want to get us? I was going to say something about the gold standard, but that didn't end
Silver.
until. Okay.
He instituted silver-backed certificates, and
They hated that.
That was
And a lot of
money
leaders-
is the root of the tree.
Internationally, a lot of leaders have been killed that have come out and said, "Hey, I want to get on a currency that backed currency."
Going back hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Yeah. 1964 is the last year of silver in our currency. It was removed after that. Johnson came in as our president, and it's an executive order. You could still find it. It's like 11101 or something of Kennedy instituting silver backing, and they're like, we can't have that. We can't have that. And Lincoln, the powers that be. If you ever get a chance, watch the documentary, The Money Masters. It's from like 1995. It's so old, but it goes through the U.S. history, and it talks about all the, of course, JFK is the one who took out the second bank of the United States. I think it was the second bank, and eventually overcame. And we had no central bank from 1836 till 1913. None. The United States was incredibly prosperous during that time. The central banks are really private cartels of banks, and they're a parasite on our country. They're sucking the lifeblood from this country, and they need to go.
That's all I got, man. You have anything you want to add?
No, this was fun.
I hope that isn't. I just want to say I believe we're coming into a golden age, because you think about all this and you start to go crazy and you get depressed. I think we're coming into an area of great prosperity, but first this has to happen. This has to happen to bring us back to ground zero, the people to be grounded. We're coming into an age where I think the church is going to come into its own right now. I think the church is mostly owned.
Yeah.
It's another one of the institutions that's owned. I've shared this with you. When Satan runs things, a medical system brings dis-ease, educational institutions bring ignorance, a legal system brings injustice, a religious system brings separation rather than communion with God. Everything's been turned on its head because of the influence of these people. The 501c3 system limits. You can't talk about the New World Order. You can't talk about a whole list of things. If you're a part of that, it's a bribe. It's 30 pieces of silver to keep people from.
Let me speak to that real quick. So I was sitting with my financial advisors a month ago or so, and guy says, "I've got a really interesting idea for you. Listen to your podcast, and I know what you guys are trying to get done. There might be a real financial benefit to looking to do a 501c3s that." For your podcast, to set your business entity up that way, and then people could donate to the growth of the podcast, and you could give them a tax deduction for that, and it could be operated as a nonprofit and this and that. I said, then they can tell me what to say. He says, well, yeah, but you're not going to say anything that's. I said, I am.
Ixnay.
Yeah. I said, I'm going to say some stuff they ain't going to be okay with. So we need to shelve that idea.
Come on.
There goes the hand again.
There it is.
The hand of Morpheus. Sincerely, dude, I appreciate your friendship, your candor. I love your mind. I think you're one of the greatest dudes that I know. I love our time together. I thank you for coming on here. I know it was a little different, and I know you wanted to be anonymous and things, and so we made that happen. So thank you so much. It's been an honor. Do you have any parting words before we hit the thing?
I respect your courage, Jim Motes. I respect your courage and that you're willing to speak out about things. And our world needs men who will speak the truth. And I respect you.
Bang.
That you do that. And
We should just end there.
This is a wonderful venue. It's been my privilege to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, dude.